Here's a quick question for you that I love to ask a lot of my clients, and that is, who has the final say in an interview situation or a recruitment situation? And 9 times out of 10, without doubt, they all say, well, of course we do. We choose who we want to work for our organisation. And I just look at them, and then you see this look of horror go on their face, and they go, uh-oh, now what? And I always say to them, you know what, if you think about it, you may want someone to come and work for you. You offer them the job, and then all of a sudden you go through and they're looking at you and they're going, actually, you know what? I actually don't want your particular role. I'm going to move over to this particular firm. And we're absolutely disheartened. But the thing is we have so much control over that experience. And one of the key areas, of course, is all of leading into the interview, and post-interview. Now, we're going to talk about nurturing candidates in our next episode, but this episode picks up and really builds on what we've talked about. So we actually started about early on in episode 1 about leveraging your culture, actually showcasing it, making sure that you're very clear on your employee value proposition, making sure you're very clear on your values that you're setting and the culture that you would like. Now, also remembering too that last episode, we got you becoming really laser focused in what capabilities and competencies that you would actually like, so that when you're actually recruiting, you're going in and you're becoming laser focused on what you're wanting, so you get the right person and the right role. Imagine it. You get the culture, you get the actual skill, the knowledge, skills and abilities, match those together, and it's amazing. So let's not drop the ball when we get to interviews. And it doesn't matter. These recruitment series is all around how do you recruit best, whether you're using a recruitment agency, an in-house person, a consultant. Every leader needs to know how to recruit.
And have you ever been in an interview, you thought it's gone really well, you've gotten to the end of it, you think, I've asked all the right questions and I've got these answers that I've been able to capture, but actually I still don't really know if this person can do the job that I'm recruiting for, or actually if they're going to have the right connection with our business. And this is where the planning and the process really pays off. So really knowing the competencies for the role and having that traffic light system that Kirsten spoke about last week really gets those questions in the right place with the follow-up questions, and that's when the magic in your conversations can take place. And I hear frequently that, well-planned interviews, they just take so much time to pull together, and we're all so busy. But we also forget that when we're pulling these things together, we're actually dealing with human beings. And that person on the other side of the table is often quite anxious and nervous about having that conversation with you. And we also forget that when we're going through this really formative part of our engagement process, what we're actually doing is starting what's likely to be an employment relationship with people. And it's the relationship that managers, I find, often forget in this part of the process. And this part often is where there's a lot of mutual decision making going on, but also where we're building those foundations of trust that are so important in our employment relationship. So our first tip for you this week is around the actual interview conversation, and it's around making it a conversation. Yes, there's information that we need to get from the process, but making sure that we've read the questions, we understand the questions, and we've got some insights about how we can get the best information from the person we're talking to. And also getting the basics right. So having the room, the water for the person, a quiet space, no phones. I know it's hard, but no phones in those interviews. And even the little things, like when we open our conversations, thanking them for the time they've taken to apply and turn up to the interview process itself. Explaining how the process is going to run. For a lot of people, this is a very anxious part. So explaining what they're likely to experience can help build that trust. Tell them a little bit about yourself and actually anybody else that's in the room with you and how they fit into the process. Give them some insights into what the position looks like that they've applied for and also the business. And then get into those questions in a real conversational style. Don't be robotic and do a tick box exercise, read question, get answer. And remember, have fun. You're dealing with a person. Enjoy the process and be as real and as authentic as you possibly can be. And then you're likely to find that the candidate responds in exactly the same manner.
Perfect. And so where I want to take this now is actually just sort of blow apart. Let's not do archaic interviews. Let's not just do one in person, another in person. Let's actually mix it up, because just like our schooling, just like our work, all of us are unique individuals. We're all very different, and we actually show our skills in totally different ways and in different environments. Some people really thrive in in-person interviews. Some thrive when they're on video. Some thrive when you're doing a more virtual call or they're doing a job test. So please make sure as you're going through, and this is one of our biggest tips of this episode, is really look at how you use those multimodalities to really leverage and put candidates in the best spotlight. So different ways to have a look at them. I've talked about just a few just then, but our absolute favorites as part of the screening process. Get them on and do a phone interview. Get as part of the screening, maybe they actually do a video for you. And whether that's something fun or whether it's on topic or whether it's a presentation, that's quite a neat way just for you to get to know them as a person. Also, as you're going through this, you've got your in-person ones. You might have done your phone interviews. And the reason that Sarah and I like phone interviews and virtual interviews ahead of time of the in-person is it gives you the opportunity to both have a two-way dialogue and really get to understand, do we actually want to work together, and then get the in-person. Because think about the amount of time that people have to take off work to come to an in-person interview. And it's something that Sarah and I are so passionate about, is please don't waste people's time. And, if you can do your phone interviews, your virtuals, you've got some videos happening as part of that screening process, imagine the power when you have that in-person interview and chat of what you can then actually build momentum on. The other one that I absolutely love, and I know Sarah, you're big on this one as well, and that is job testing. Because interview questions, amazing, but job testing is when that rubber hits the road. And when you actually put together some job tests that people can actually shine at, guess what? They're doing the things that they love doing. They're doing the things that they're amazing at, rather than just asking questions. So if, for example, you're recruiting a trainer, so actually get them to design a little mini training session and facilitate it. If you're doing it on virtual world, a lot of training sessions, get them to do it virtually or in person. If they're a salesperson, well, why not get them to actually take you through a sales conversation they would have with the client? If they're a Mac operator, maybe you get them to actually give them a case study of an ad they need to draw up. All of these different things. It doesn't matter what the role is. Think smart, think savvy, and really get people to shine in the areas of expertise. Let's revolutionize the way we do our interviews, move away from just your formal interviews, and then let's make it real. The second tip to build on what Sarah was just speaking about is the environment. And it doesn't matter whether it's job testing, whether it's phone interviews, or whether it's in person. Please make sure your environment is amazing. And what we're meaning by that is give them all the instructions up front of what they need to do well in advance, making sure that it's a time that doesn't just suit you, but suits them as well. And then making sure that they've got everything at their fingertips. That is where to park, who to expect, what preparation that they need, what to expect when they walk in the door. And here's another one for you. When they're walking in the door or they're coming to a meeting, make sure that any person that they actually interact with along the process knows their name, knows who they are, because remembering that whole environment piece is actually setting the scene about what your business is all about. So go well. Those are my top two. I'm going to hand back to Sarah now. I'm sure you scribbled quite a few notes, and Sarah will wrap up.
So our challenge to you this week, of course, is to implement those tips. So the very first tip we shared with you, make the interview process, whatever that interview process looks like, conversational. So remembering that we want to make sure that person walks out feeling warm and that they were listened to and heard. And just remembering also that whatever happens during those processes is an absolute reflection of your brand and reputation. The second tip we're sharing with you is around using multiple modalities. So not just the face-to-face interview, it's all of those other tips that Kirsten shared with you earlier. And lots of candidates are really flexible with approaches, given the environment we've been in. So maybe it's time to step up what you're doing. And the last, but certainly not the least, is make sure that the environment that the person's walking into is a reflection of what your culture looks like and you're really proud of it. So join us next week when we take you through part 4 of our Recruiting for Culture series, and we're going to be looking at nurturing candidates.